Hi, my name is Mike Dillard, and this is Self-Made Man, the podcast for men who want to leave their mark on the world and create a legacy of honor, integrity, and achievement in every aspect of their lives. I'm glad you're here, and once again, it is time to forge your destiny. One of the biggest keys to success in life is to turn your greatest passion into a business. That's what I did 10 years ago when it came to online marketing and then investing, and now today in health and food production. And that is also the path that our guest Drew Canole took as well. You know, today most people recognize Drew in the health and fitness industry as the face and the brand of juicing. His ebook, The Alpha Reset, has been downloaded over 1 million times. His following has grown to more than 1.6 million fans on Facebook and over 250,000 subscribers on his YouTube channel. But where he is today is certainly not where he started. Just 5 years ago, Drew was heading down a path that so many Americans are currently on as well. That is a path that leads to pain, to illness, and ultimately to an early departure from this planet. He was not happy with his purpose in life. He wasn't happy with the way that he looked or how he felt, and he decided to make a change. That decision would transform him and impact millions of people around the world, including myself. This is the story of how he did it. Please welcome Drew Canole. Welcome back, everybody. Mike Dillard here, and today we're going to be talking to a gentleman who has an amazing story, not only from an entrepreneurial standpoint, but also from a personal health and fitness standpoint, one that I've been following for a couple of years now and have recently become a huge fan of his products. So, Drew Canole, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thanks, Mike, for having me on. I'm really excited to be here. Love your show, and let's do this.
Yeah, thanks. I was super excited to hear that you've listened to some episodes, and I was going to ask which one, if any, has really stood out to you.
You know, I just recently, the one that's on the top of my mind that I just listened to was Josh Bizzoni, right?
Yeah, it was incredible.
From BioTrust, how to go from 0 to 100 million in a year. And we're on similar paths as what BioTrust is doing. So listening to that, it was just kind of cool to see into the future. You know?
Absolutely. So, you know, I've been following your work for a couple of years, and I found it incredibly inspiring from a personal standpoint. And I wanted to see if you'd be willing to share a little bit about your transformation story from a health perspective, first and foremost, because I think that really is the most important part of anyone's life. And we've all heard the saying that, you know, you don't miss your health until you've lost it. So if you would be willing to start there, that'd be awesome.
I love it. Well, what I'd like to do is kind of go way back into time. And this was at the very beginning of my life. I was brought into this world. And as a youngster, I was actually tortured as a kid. I was, neglected from my mom and dad and abused and, lots of really bad stuff as a kid. So there was a lot of deep-seated mental issues that I had to work through. But the benefit of that is I realized at a young age that just because I was physically tortured and everything that was happening to me, as I would grow throughout to where I am today as this 34-year-old man, I would see many people throughout the country and that I would come into contact with that are actually torturing themselves with the choices that they make, the food that they're eating, the prescription drugs that everybody's on, and all these other things. So it was a way to relate to people. So personal transformation story in the very beginning dealt a lot with that. It was the forgiveness, of the father that had done this and letting that go.
How did you, Drew, I've got to ask, how did you get through that? What was your process to work through that kind of trauma?
Well, the first phase in it was, I was about 5 years old and I got adopted by a great loving family, Jeff and Connie, from Michigan, small town in Michigan, less than 1,000 people. And every night I would say my prayers before going to bed. And it was typical kid stuff, right? I pray for the cat, the dog, grandma, grandpa. And my mom limited it because I was one of those positive kids that would just list like 50 things. And she's like, all right, we're an hour into your prayer. You got to go to bed, But one night I said, and I prayed to forgive the father, for my biological father, for abusing me. And with that, I felt this immense release because I let it go. And I think a lot of people hold on to past stuff. So as much as we can clear our consciousness off of the past and realize that really all there is the present moment, then it's going to allow us to be 10 times more effective right here, right now. So at a young age, I realized this. And my whole life has been miracle after miracle. Like I could list out hundreds of different stories of just being in the right place at the right time or having the right mentor in my life show up and teach me something that I needed in that exact moment, but it's being open to that other side. And what we see in reality oftentimes is kind of an illusion. There's a lot more going on here, as you know. So it started at a young age, releasing it. And like any adult male, I had issues growing up mentally. It's getting close to women at times. And, there was different situations that I had to work through in my own mind and heal. But every day is a step closer to being that more authentic person that we're trying to be, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd say, how many years has it been now since you really hit that point of transformation from a physical fitness and a health standpoint?
So I think that something magical when I turned 29 happened in my life. I started to view death as being right next to us, right? Like Carlos Consonadis writes about it in his book called Journey to Ixtlan, and Wayne Dyer talks about this as well. And I really realized that death is just right. It's just one arm length away, So if it's so close and so many people are so focused on the future and, in this different mindset, what can I do today to really change as many people's lives as possible? And at the time I was meeting with one of my mentors, Frank Scheidler, every day. And he told me, he's like, if you do anything at all, make sure you're doing something that impacts people and helps them, because all the money in the world isn't worth anything if you're not really helping other humans become better versions of who they are. And I took that to heart. And I had heard it before in movies and books and all this other stuff, but it's like that epiphany moment that just shocks you into a state of alignment that you've never been in before. So at the time I was 40, 45 pounds overweight. I was lazy, a little lethargic. I would drink every weekend. I was participating in what a lot of people do, and which is completely fine. But it's that escapism, right? Every weekend we're looking for something outside of ourselves instead of turning within and recognizing the greatness that's there all along. So I did that, and I lived in that state for 4 or 5 years. And when I turned 29, it was like, I'm done with this. I'm done with the addictions that are holding me back, the self-pity, the self-loathing, the food that I was eating at the time, the low energy, the low vibration thoughts that I was having. I'm like, I need to become somebody new. I have to become somebody completely different than I've ever been. And to do that, we study neurolinguistic programming and the 7 logical levels of shifting identity. One of them is environment. So I knew that if I was going to change, I had to change the people that I was around. And that was tough because nobody likes to leave the people that they love and that they've had history with and everything else. But I did it. And it was one of the greatest things I've ever done. I moved from Tampa, Florida, all the way out to San Diego, California, and I knew nobody in California. And I started a habit that I'm still doing today, and that is going to the gym at 5:30, 6 o'clock every single morning. And drinking green juice. Green juice was pivotal in my transformation. I was so used to putting in macronutrients in my body, 4,000 calories a day, the average American gets, and I was the same person. But I wasn't getting the quintessential bioconstituents and the plants and the amino acids and the enzymes and all of the positive life force that comes with green juice. So as soon as I started doing that, I healed my leaky gut that I had, because I wasn't digesting the food at that time either. And I had bowel movement issues and all these other things. And sure enough, in a period of 90 days, I went from well over 20% body fat down to sub 7%. And my sleep improved, my mental clarity improved, my ability to be present with other people went through the roof. And my life just completely changed from making that decision when I turned 29 years old. And it's been an incredible ride. We've seen the ups and the downs in Fit Life, and we'll talk more about it in a little bit. But this new company we started a year ago called Organifi, and it's been really great. So I'm honored and blessed to be in a position to help so many people see the potential that they already have within them.
When you started juicing and you talk about that 90-day transformation, were you strictly on juice? Is this like juice all the time? Or are you eating solid food as well? Or
So the reason I started juicing in the first place was because I had a gentleman, Mark, who was working for me in Florida at the time. he came up to me and he said that he almost died, and he's a 55-year-old gentleman, and the doctor gave him less than 6 months left to live. And he told me this story. You know, one of these people that come to you and they're like, they've had these amazing transformations that we listen to. And he told me how his wife went home and cleared out all the processed food and the sugar, the dairy, the wheat, the other things that were kind of disrupting his microgut biome. And he said he just started to add juicing in, and he juiced every single day. I think he said it was something like 4 12 to 16 ounce juices. And within 6 months, he went back to the doctor, and the doctor was completely shocked because what he was diagnosed with before was completely gone. At the time when he was 55, his testosterone was that of like a 12-year-old girl. His hormones were completely fixed, and his sleep, everything changed because he added that positive life-giving juice in his life. And I thought at the time, well, if Mark literally saved his life and he was given 6 months left to live and he changed everything, what could it do with somebody that was just kind of average, you know? I wasn't in great shape, but I was just kind of like the average guy. I was a little, probably over 20% and body fat, was tired all the time and all these other things. What would it do for me? So I added in 1 juice a day for a period of about 2 weeks. And then I did a 5-day juice cleanse. And I would have like bone broth and different soup and stuff like that during it, and in coconut oil to get the good fats. But we turned that into our first ever digital product online called the Alpha Reset. And the Alpha Reset, we've had, I think, close to 1.7 million people download it, and similar results. You know, once you cut the crap out and you start applying these food as medicine principles in your life, everything starts to change. And it changed my life. Doing the 5-day cleanse, it gave me time to think about what I really wanted. Because when we're in a fasted state, as you know, because I'm sure you've done like the bulletproof coffee and intermittent fasting and things like that as well. It turns our brain on, you know?
You know, one of the big questions that I wanted to ask you here about juicing, because, you know, I've juiced on and off for years, and it is really dependent upon, I guess time, or how busy I am, or, you know, how big of a priority you make it, because it can be really a lot of work, you know, especially if you're doing it, you know, once or twice a day. But one of the biggest questions that I've always wondered is, I've always stuck specifically to really, really potent green juices. I've heard you've mentioned your daily regimen or your recipe, and mine is pretty close to identical to that. But when you see juice cleanses out there in programs, you know, they've got maybe 3 or different varieties a day if you're going through 6 or 7 different bottles of juice a day. And a lot of them can be somewhat fruit-centric or sweet with carrots or beets. And I've always wanted to ask you, do you stick generally just to green juice? And is that what you would recommend? Use something really low on the glycemic index? Or is it totally fine to dive into those other varieties?
You know, I would say it's the 80-20 rule. 80% of my juices are always veggies, and then 20% is sometimes like an apple or carrots. There's a lot of biochemical constituents actually in carrots that are great for helping with cancer patients, right? I met Charlotte Gerson last year, this 92-year-old woman that if you would look in her eyes, they were the brightest blue eyes you'd ever see. And all around it, the white was just so vibrant. You could tell her liver was so pure in her thoughts. And the way that she communicated was that of like a 25-year-old, right? Just with it. And her favorite juice every day was carrot juice. So there's benefits to a little bit of sugar here and there. I like to stick more towards probably similar green drinks to you, and the fact that it's loaded with like dandelion greens, kale, chard, celery, lemon, tons of ginger, turmeric, things like maybe a little cayenne pepper here and there. But I like the bitter. I like the more of the potent stuff. People drink it. They'll come to the juice bar that I go to, and it's actually in San Diego. If you go to this place called Vitality Tap, it's actually called the Drew Juice. And when you most people drink this, and they almost want to spit it out because it's just loaded with so much ginger, which is amazing for inflammation, for digestion, and really helping your body cleanse naturally.
Awesome. So, you know, this turned into a personal passion, which you then were inspired to turn into a business. So how did you dive down that rabbit hole?
So I, first and foremost, I saw the vision. You know, I got out the whiteboard. My friend Jeffro was here. I don't know if you know Jeffro, but he was staying in San Diego. He's on my couch, and we're like, oh, the new year's coming up. Let's just kind of write out our goals. So I put at the top of my whiteboard that I wanted to be like the next Jack LaLanne. Jack LaLanne was this monster of a man in the 1950s, and he expressed so much vitality. This guy got on video. He was the first fitness and health guru that was actually on TV back in the day. And I thought, if I could emulate anybody, I like the Jack LaLanne. So I put that on the board, and I'm like, well, what did he do? He had this juicing infomercial, and I started to deconstruct how he was successful. And I started to see the gap in the marketplace. There really wasn't a juicing guy that was kind of on YouTube that was owning it at the time. And I'm like, I'm going to do that. So I started filming a video, maybe 2 videos every week. Our Saturday strategy we've been doing for about 4.5 years. So every Saturday at the same time, we release 1 video every week for the strategy. And then we do a mindset video too. But within a period of about a month and a half after making this vision board and knowing that the goal that I wanted, because I think that's important to tell people, you got to know what you want. I got a call from the guys over at the Juice Man Juicer, and they needed a new guy to be the infomercial dude. So, and this was a very short period of time after doing this. So we started working on an infomercial to actually be the new Jack LaLanne and Jay Kordich, the Juice Man back in the day.
Yeah.
So that was a cool experience and testimonial to just knowing what you want and having it show up. So over that 4.5 time period of consistently taking action and reading a book to 2 books a week and turning it into a video and getting excited and having enthusiasm about it, we grew this following from literally, I maybe had 4,000 friends on Facebook way back when, but now we have close to 3 million. And our engagement is anywhere from 5 to 15 million in a given month, which is pretty good in the health and fitness niche.
Yeah, that's amazing. Is that all just organic and your consistency and the quality and the value that you're putting out, or is there paid?
So we do promoted posts, obviously, on Facebook and a lot of sharing with other pages that we admire and people that we like working with, which helps with that engagement and that reach. And we also do a bunch of media buys now. We're getting more into the cold traffic side of things, which was foreign to me up until about 7 months ago. I had been friends with guys like into Mike Geary and some of these other big guys in the health and fitness niche that are experts at media buys, but cold traffic really wasn't our thing. It was more of building the community and developing good content, and then people would follow. And we've always done, millions of dollars of revenue a year with the organic model, building the community. But in order to impact as many people as we want to impact and build relationships with people all over the world, we knew we had to start spending a serious amount of money on cold traffic as well. So that's more of our goal in this year, is to really hone in on the emails and the YouTube traffic and the Facebook. And we have individual people for every single channel that we have, because every channel is different, as you know.
Right. So members on your team that basically own each channel.
Yeah, exactly.
Got it. And is that a skill set that you guys have been teaching those hires as you go, or they're learning on the job? Because that is such a rare skill set these days, or were you able to hire them, from corporate basically?
One of the things that is awesome about the community in which you and I are in, this whole marketing community, is we hear who is good and who isn't, or who the shining stars are in that one medium. And by doing that, you can kind of reach out to them. And we've been lucky enough to recruit people that have been doing that for years and then bring them on board FitLife to actually run it for us.
Awesome.
So people with a proven history of doing it. It's sometimes hard to train somebody to have that type of mindset to do it. Yeah,
absolutely. One of the things that I was really surprised by in some of the other videos and podcasts that I've heard you share your story with was, even fairly recently, within the last couple of years, you guys were going through the growing pains that every company experiences when you're trying to scale from, one guy with 2 or 3 employees to a team of 5, 10, 15, and really trying to scale the business. And I was wondering if you would be willing to share some of those details, because I think it's so important for new entrepreneurs to hear that it's not just magic and rainbows for guys like you or I, as we've, we've built our businesses.
Yeah. It can be really, really difficult but then also on the other hand, as you know, super, super rewarding. We went from literally 2 people in the very beginning, my first employee, Mae Desmond, who's still with us. Everybody that has been part of Fit Life is still part of the movement. Nobody leaves, which is really cool. So, and now, I mean, we have about 45 people on the team. So it's grown significantly over that amount of time. The biggest thing that any organization, and this is just from, going through the growing pains of doing a little over $1 million to 10 million and beyond, is each role has to be super, super specific. So just the more specific it can be, the more you can hone in on those KPIs, those key performance indicators. And that's been our big challenge, because in the beginning it was, all right, we have 7 people on the team. Every person has 3 roles in the company.
Right.
But they're not really owning that one thing. And its KPIs can get a little difficult, and tracking measures and everything else that we have to do as entrepreneurs to really see it through to the end. But when they can own one thing, I think that's what will take you from, doing 10 to 100 plus million a year or more.
What's been the biggest challenge with you in that? When I've scaled my last 2 businesses, the biggest challenge that I've run into is that we scale up in people, which means we're increasing our overhead, and that doesn't necessarily translate to increased revenue. And so I don't know if you've quite figured that out yet, because I've struggled with that one for a while now.
Yeah, that's a really in revenue and even profit. It's like, well, we're doing all this revenue, but how much profit are we really doing? Did we do more profit when we were actually doing a lot less revenue? It's just one of those things as an entrepreneur. So our kind of way of hiring and finding somebody is when we know we absolutely can't go on without that person, right? When the person's either almost burnt out or they don't have enough time in the day to get it done, then we find somebody to fill that gap. But we know consciously what gaps we're looking for, because we have 90-minute meetings, and we're virtual, by the way. We don't even have a physical office, which is pretty unique. So the way we manage our virtual team is every morning, 20 minutes, we do the Rockefeller meeting, right? The Rockefeller Habits, based on a book. And also we have a 90-minute meeting every week. And we have our quarterlies and everything else. But what that does is it allows us to bring up any issues people are dealing with, any signs of burnout. Because we're a fitness and health company, these are things that we talk about. Your life becomes work, right? Everybody that works at Fit Life has the life that they love. Like they all work out, and they love getting outside and grounding, and they drink juice and all of these really cool things that we do to be healthy. It's just now we're doing it to help change the world, So when those issues come up, we address them, and we start pulling. One of the really unique things is when you have a large community, about 3 million people, you can start to look within to find people to come in to the organization. So it's a pretty cool screening process. And most of our people that we have on the team now, especially the core team, come directly from the community. They were watching Mindset Mondays for 2 years, and they decided that enough is enough. I don't want to be an engineer anymore. I want to help people with their health because I love it. And that's my COO, Jamel, who is total rock star, kicking. He's my integrator too. Another great book, Rocket Fuel by Gino Wickman. He talks about integrators and visionaries. And we had the whole team read that so they understand how your brain works, Mike, and my brain, and how to communicate with us, because we're the visionaries. We're the occipital cortex guys. We have that information and those ideas that are all happening simultaneously. And sometimes it's hard for hunter brains like us to relate to the farmers who are used to planting the crops and making sure that everything is consistent when we're throwing 1,000 ideas at them,
I can totally appreciate that. I don't have that book, but I'll be jumping on Amazon here shortly when we finish the show. So that sounds good. Have you had a mentor that has been walking you through this process, over the last year or two?
I would say a bunch of different ones that I can call up or text anytime, and they've been insanely helpful. One of my buddies, my first transformation client ever, Kent Clothier. You've probably met Kent before. Mm-hmm. He's in a couple masterminds and whatnot. Really, really sharp guy. He's built huge businesses. And he's also a very heart-centered guy too. So reaching out to him has been really helpful. I have different like spiritual mentors. I have personal trainers. I have 2 coaches that I meet with. So it's probably similar to you. You know, we look at the different areas of our life, whether it's our family, our fitness, our finances, our faith, and we find somebody that we look up to in those different buckets, and we put them in that role. And that's been really, really helpful for me. So he's been a big influence. Michael Nitti is a personal transformation coach that I actually use. He's kind of like Tony Robbins' right-hand man. So listening to him, and if I ever struggle with anything, I reach out and have him help me. Frank is my faith mentor, who I still talk to at least once or twice a week for an hour. And he really dives deep into scriptural texts from the past and how it's applied from our ancient civilizations into today, and how we can do that in the workplace and in life, which is cool. So I have a psychologist I see once a week, Doug Brackman, amazing guy. He studies functional MRIs of guys like you and I, the ways our brains work and how to make sense of the world from that hunter's mind, which is really, really interesting stuff. I'm going to have him on the show too. He'd be great for your stuff.
Nice. Very cool.
So
I absolutely love that.
Yeah.
So a couple of, 1 or 2 years ago, you moved away from strictly information products to physical products. I see, obviously with Organifi, I would love it if you'd be willing to share that story. And I've seen a couple of others here on Fit Life TV as well.
Yeah.
What precipitated that? What was the story behind the launch of Organifi, which has been just a huge product for you guys?
Every entrepreneur has their struggle, and they have their breakthrough moment. And mine came in 2013. In 2014, when organic reach was dead on Facebook. Facebook changes their algorithms just like Google all the time. And you don't know if you're coming or going on those platforms. And that happened to us. And our web traffic went from we were getting 11 million hits a month organically down to less than 1 million. And we had all these employees and everything else, and the revenues dipped. I was losing about 50 to sometimes $100,000 a month.
Wow.
And this happened for a period of about 9 or 10 months. It was tough. It was a struggle. I looked at a lot of the people that worked for me as my friends. They were people that I loved hanging around. And I got to a point to where I'm like, I'm going to have to let these people go. This business is just not working out. And of course, we hear all the alarming statistics about how 9 out of 10 businesses fail and everything else. So we got that going for us, right? So I'm beating myself up a little bit. And we had been working on a formulation for a greens superfood for about 2 years. Dozens of iterations, going back and forth with formulators, different manufacturing facilities, looking at different farms all over the world that are all organic, USDA approved. And we finally came up with a formulation that we loved. It was a lot different than any other green superfood on the planet.
And let's define that real quick, if you will.
Yeah.
What do you mean by green superfood for folks?
So business-wise, superfoods are a huge, huge business. We'll do $170 billion in superfood business-wise in America this year. So it's a big niche. And superfoods are essentially anything that has a special ability to it, like a superhuman, this superfood. You got spirulina that's loaded with vitamin B, that chlorella that helps you detox. It multiplies itself 4 times in a 24-hour period. It's really good for healing the gut. Ashwagandha, the clinical trials we've done on the ashwagandha we use, lowers stress. Oops. Hold on. Is that me or you?
That's you.
Okay.
No worries.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
Ashwagandha actually lowers stress 29% in a period of about 8 weeks from what we've seen. So all of these things that we've added to Organifi that are infused in it have a really special thing that we've chosen for. Turmeric, as you know, great for inflammation and other things. So we added all 11 things that we love and we take every day at Fit Life to this green juice, and we made it actually taste better than any green juice on the planet.
And I would like to give you a shout out to that, because that's why I've been taking the product. So I bought it when you launched it, and I've tried many, many green juices that are available at Whole Foods. The powders or the mixes. Never liked any of them, and I think yours tastes awesome, which is why I've been a customer for the past 6 months.
Yeah.
So I got to give you props for that. Great job.
Well, knowing how much you juice and hearing stories from your friends about who was it? I think it was Bree told me that you had tons of juicers at your house and you're like a freak like me. That's a big honor. So thank you for saying that about Organifi. I appreciate that. And so we literally put everything that we love in it, and we've done clinicals. We're doing our own clinicals again coming up. Actually, they started this month to really know, to see the results of the stress reduction. We're doing psychological evaluations and stress levels in people and anxiety and other things that a lot of supplement companies don't really pay attention to. They just kind of private label something and they just print off as many as they need and then they ship it out to their customers. But we knew we had to be a lot different if we were going to grow and surpass those people and give our people really what they need and wanted,
Absolutely. So is this a supplement as you would position it for folks? And really, this is how I use it when, frankly, I'm too busy to juice or I'm traveling or something like that. And so this has become a nightly ritual for me where I finish my evening with a glass of Organifi.
I love that. Are you a big dreamer? Have you noticed by taking it at night, your dreams kind of turn a little more lucid?
I don't know, because I'm also a huge fan of Alpha Brain from Onnit.
Got it.
And that stuff totally screws with your dreams in a good way. But yeah,
Alpha Brain does. I've taken that in the past.
Yep.
Yeah, anytime we detoxify our pineal gland, which spirulina does that, some of the sea vegetables, turmeric helps. The pineal gland is actually like the communication with your higher self or soul, whatever you want to call it. That helps you have much more lucid dreams. So I get emails all the time from people saying, I've never had dreams. I've never even remembered my dreams, but I started taking this and now I'm getting information from them. It's pretty cool.
Wow. Very
kind
cool.
of a woo-woo thing about it, but I love it. Yeah. So it tastes awesome. And flashing back, looking at 2013 and 2014, we were struggling. And then I remember we all sat down as a team and we're like, oh, this is it, guys. We have literally less than $35,000 in the bank account and payroll's greater than this. We're going to go out of business if this doesn't work. And we flipped our minds, I remember going around and we're like, all right, one of those crazy like hippie groups. We're like, I want everybody to say something they're happy about or they're grateful for that has happened this year. And I really want everyone to feel it because the feeling is what's going to create it. And we did this for about 35 minutes. And a couple people on the team, like they were so convinced and so happy to be there that they literally started crying. And within a week, we hit the send button for our first email we used the Jeff Walker model to launch our first product, right? And we had Russell Brunson come in for a day and good friend, and he helped out. And we literally changed the business. We did more on the first email send of launching Organifi than we did in like 4 months of our current revenue. And that was just one email. And it just continued to scale after that. And it continues to scale today as well because of the amount of effort and time that we put into it. And also developing the relationship with our community. You got to think about doing anything for over 4 years and just giving so much value to the world that it's going to pay you back no matter how you look at it. A lot of people are like, you do too much for free, Drew. You shouldn't be giving away all these free videos or these blog posts or everything that you do. But I think it's like karma, Everything comes back to you when you're putting out good into the universe.
Yeah, agreed. So what is next? What is next for Fit Life and for your company?
Yeah, we have a ton of things that we're working on. Obviously, every entrepreneur does. One thing I'm really excited about is we're going to have our first live event coming up in June. So we're going to have it in San Diego. We're going to start doing more offline stuff, which I'm pumped about because I believe we have this huge digital community, but why not bring them into the family in person, and start meeting some of these people from all over the world. I'd like to travel a little bit more. And we have a huge following in like Europe and the Philippines. And so I'd like to reach out to some of those people and bring Organifi with us. That's one of the big things. We have a turmeric product that you're going to be really excited about. I'll send you some as soon as we get it.
Nice.
Yeah, it's we have a patented process for extracting the curcuminoids in turmeric to make it 4 times more bioavailable and faster acting. It's the only organic turmeric that actually has this. So pretty cool.
Very cool. And have you guys ever considered doing the little single serving packets for Organifi? Because I'm just going to propose that now if you haven't.
We already have them. And I'm gonna send you a box after I get off of this. I can't believe you don't have them yet. So
I have the can, but I just hate I hate traveling with the can in the suitcase. With the whole TSA stuff. So
yeah. So you're gonna love the travel packs. I'm gonna get you out some of those. I actually like the travel packs better too. So, and that came from listening to the audience, obviously, and listening to people like you, Mike, that were like, you guys need these to-go packs. So it's called Organifi Go, and yeah, that's been really great. Adding more SKUs onto something that we already know is working is also a smart marketing thing too. So love that.
So what is, circling back to the beginning here and getting people back to a point of health and making that a priority, what would be the top, 2 or 3 things that if you could give some advice to the audience listening right now that they could start doing immediately that's not going to have a huge or require a huge change in their schedule and their habits, whatever it may be, that would really make a positive impact on their health?
Perfect. So I think when most people, we're right around, I don't know when you're going to release this, but we're right around the new year, right? Yeah. Resolutions. People are all so focused on their health and they're focused on what they should stop doing. I should stop doing this. I should stop doing that. I'm a huge advocate of what can I add in as a micro commitment today that's going to cascade into huge change, right? There's a book called The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy, the Success Magazine guy, and he talks about this.
Great book.
Yeah, awesome book. So what I do in health is something similar, where if somebody's just starting out, they're drinking soda every day, maybe they're eating processed food, whatever it is, they wake up in the morning. Usually that type of person's just going to reach for coffee, drink it first thing in the morning. Well, instead of starting that way, grab 12 to 18 ounces of warm water with lemon in it. And just do that for a week. See how it changes in your energy, your perception of the world. And the next week, maybe add another micro commitment on top of it. So something as simple as adding a green juice in or Organifi that second week. Do that for 7 days. People try to go all in, I think, on goals a lot, and then they fall off. 2 weeks into February, they're stuck. They go back another year into the future, and they're still in the same place or worse off than they ever were before. So adding these micro commitments in, water, juicing, making sure they're eating organic vegetables, having a salad every day is a huge thing with kale, collard greens, like blueberries. You get all the antioxidants, the turmeric, the sauerkraut for fermented foods. A lot of people aren't even eating fermented foods anymore because they don't even know how healthy they are for that good gut bacteria. So Hippocrates said all disease starts in the gut in 400 BC. I believe that. So a lot of the stuff that we do at FitLife is actually changing that micro gut biome initially. By eating something as simple as eating 2 or 3 stalks of celery before a meal is absolutely amazing for you. Not only is you're going to get the fiber full up from it, you're not going to eat as much, but your probiotics actually love eating the prebiotics that are in the celery. And that can change your whole micro gut biome. It actually changes in every 20 minutes. Your whole gut flora can switch. 80% of your immune system's there. 90% of your serotonin's produced in the gut, which is that happy molecule. So if you're depressed, you're fatigued, you're tired for any reason, start to adjust your gut and your life will change dramatically. That's what the Alpha Reset does. So 3 to 5 days on our Alpha Reset, you'll notice that your mood starts to shift. You're not craving the things that you used to. Most people eat food that's toxic to their taste buds. I wrote a book called Train Your Taste to Trim Your Waist, and it was all about changing the way you perceive food starting in the mouth. And what's crazy is so many people are on antibiotics. If we look at the overuse of antibiotics in America, that destroys your gut, causes leaky gut, right? And there's antibiotics in everything. If you're not eating organic food, the pesticides that they spray on your food is actually an antibiotic, which destroys your gut. Toothpaste, like Crest, Colgate, actually has an antibiotic in it, which destroys the good bacteria in your mouth that you need to actually start breaking down the food right away. So it's just a lot of misinformation out there, I think. When we start to learn, you're an educated man. You've been studying your whole entire life. Maybe most of the listeners probably are too if they're listening to this, but there's so much that we can do to change our gut, our internal state, our mind, which is shifting our diet and adding in things instead of trying to give everything up.
So, on that same topic of a gut, I'm on your website and I'm watching the banner rotate with an image for your probiotic formula. And I would love your insight When it comes to that kind of product or industry in general, you go into Whole Foods, there's 30 different kinds of probiotics that you can buy. Some are refrigerated, some aren't. Do they work? Which ones should you buy? Why are some better than others? To me, it's something that you hear that's very important that you should be taking, but at the same time, there's so many options and there's so little information or education about how those products are produced and whether or not they actually work. And how do you even know, right? So any insights would be really valuable.
Well, one of the biggest, most researched supplements on the planet is probiotics, right? Especially when it comes to mind disorders like bipolar, different things that people would take probiotics for, which is pretty incredible. A lot of the information that I've read and I'll address one of the myths that's out there, is a lot of people say that if it's in the freezer, it's better for you, or in the fridge section of Whole Foods, right?
Right.
So that's actually a myth. That's actually, from what I've read in the research that we've done, is those are weaker strains of probiotics that need to be refrigerated in order to survive. So because they're weaker strains, there's not as many in them, The probiotics that we chose to use for our first run through has 50 billion CFUs, which is quite a bit, right? They go anywhere from 1 billion to sometimes 250 billion. And there's pharmaceutical grade, which doctors can prescribe to you, that are actually more than that. But I would encourage anybody that's not incorporating probiotics into their supplement protocol to start. And notice how it starts to change. Maybe your bowel movements start to get more timed out more effectively. Maybe the mental clarity starts to change and you become more clear in the mind. And that has to deal with you're putting more gut bacteria that's good in your gut as opposed to some of the bad bacteria that's there. And it's just bringing the body back into homeostasis. I think the food, the probiotics, the supplements, those aren't healing you. The human body is this amazing miracle of a machine. But when we give it those tools and the supplements and the food, it just makes it better at what it's already doing,
Absolutely.
So I would recommend probiotics for sure.
Okay, cool. Thanks for the insight on that. It's just something that do I buy the refrigerated 100 million CFU or the non? So that's super valuable. Well, Drew, this has been awesome, my friend. Where should people go to check out your work, to buy Alpha Reset, to try Organifi? Where can we send some folks?
Yeah, they can get the Alpha Reset as a free PDF download at alphareset.com. Or if they just want some of our complimentary videos, they can go to FitLife TV. They can see what we're up to. That's just fitlife.tv. And we sell Organifi and the probiotics on that website as well. So if they're interested in making that investment in their health, they can check that out too.
Awesome. Well, thank you for all that you do, brother. Thank you for coming out with these awesome products that I have absolutely loved and that have made a huge impact on me. And for the leadership that you've really been providing in this marketplace. I can't think of, many more people in the health and fitness industry who've had more congruence than you and transparency and authenticity when it comes to your mission. And it shows in everything that you put out. And it's just awesome, my friend. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much, my friend. And I appreciate you for creating this amazing show. I am definitely a listener. I actually had my whole team listen to that episode, and they were like, wow, this is incredible information. They took notes on it. And so thank you for putting this out into the world too. You're doing big things.
Awesome, brother. Well, guys, thank you so much for listening. Go check out the resources. We'll list them here on the blog page as well. And if you got some value from the show, which I'm sure that you did, if you know some people who could use a kick in the pants when it comes to their health, if you'd like them to be around for a few more years than they might on the direction or the path that they are on now, have them go check out Drew's work, have them get on the products. It's awesome stuff. And we will see you next week. Thank you very much. Thank you guys so much for listening today. If you learned something from this episode with Drew, which I'm sure that you did, please share this with those that you care about. His products, his information, his training could absolutely transform their lives and have a positive impact on it like it has for me. So thank you so much. And here is Tidal Wave by Illustrated to take us home.
Somebody sing me to sleep. I wanna know why I'm having these dreams. See me outside